Hello everybody, it is I, Captain Oblivious Mist, and, well, got a few words here. We've done it! Yep, we're on the final ship of the Big Four, the RMS Adriatic, who was the pinnacle of her class, and surprisingly, to say she was the fourth ship in this class, she would be quite revolutionary. So, let's stop the talking and get into the actual video. During the late 1800s, the White Star Line needed a new ship to compete with the Cunard Line. So enter the Celtic. She came in around 20,000 gross registered tons and was the biggest ship in the world, as well as a huge success for the White Star Line. So they decided to build a sister ship for the Celtic. This sister ship was to be called the Cedric. And during the construction of the sister ship, the construction on the third ship in this class begun, when her keel was laid down, and this ship was to be called the Baltic. And during her construction, the keel for the fourth and final ship in the Big Four, as well as the subject of today's video, was laid. This ship would be the most luxurious and revolutionary liner in the Big Four, and she was to be called the RMS Adriatic. The Adriatic was slightly bulkier than the rest of the Big Four. She was also the largest of her class, but not in the world. If you're wondering why, well, we'll get into that later, as like the rest of the Big Four, she was powered by quadruple expansion engines, giving her a slightly faster service speed of 17 knots. Another section where she was superior compared to her sisters was her interiors, as she had a gorgeous dining room that had an amazing glass roof, and a smoking room adorned with stained glass. She was also the first ship to have Turkish baths. She was also the first ship, maybe not the first ship to have a swimming pool, but she was the first ship that was given a swimming pool that didn't sink, as ships were given swimming pools for centuries, but they were not meant to be there. Enough of the joking around, as we need to cover the construction process itself, which begun when she was ordered in 1903. But despite this, she wouldn't be launched until the 20th of September 1906, which was on the same day as the Cunard Line's Mauritania's launch day, which resulted in the Adriatic being the only ship in her class not to be the biggest ship in the world. But on another note, after her launch, she was put into dry dock and completed. Then, in April of 1907, she was handed over to the White Star Line and then sailed to Liverpool to begin her maiden voyage. When she left on a maiden voyage, she left with great fanfare and under the command of the future captain of the RMS Titanic, Captain Edward John Smith. But unlike the Titanic 5 years later, the Adriatic arrived in New York on the 16th of May 1907. And shortly after, she was transferred to the Southampton to New York route. During this time, a few incidents happened, one of which was on the 10th of October 1908, when the fact that 4 crew members had stolen £4,000 worth of passenger luggage had been brought up to light. Another incident was in 1909, when the Adriatic ran aground in the Ambrose Channel. Then, in 1910, her stokers mutinied. As well as that, in 1910, a passenger died. This passenger was called Alexander Agassiz. I ain't bothering to pronounce that last name. Very random and not very interesting, I know, but Wikipedia found it interesting enough to put it on the website, so hey ho. Anyways, in 1911, the Olympic was completed, resulting in the Adriatic being moved back to the Liverpool to New York route. Then, in 1912, the RMS Titanic was completed and left on a maiden voyage, which ended when she had a love tap with an iceberg and sunk, resulting in some of the surviving passengers needing to go back to Britain. And so, the Adriatic came to the rescue, sort of, and transported some of the passengers back to Britain. Now, not much really happened after this until World War I, which brings me to the next part of the video. In 1914, a massive war broke out between many of the great European powers, which resulted in many White Star Line ships being requisitioned. But thankfully for the Adriatic and her older sister, the Baltic, they were not requisitioned, and in fact continued on their normal route. They were even joined by 3 ships from the Red Star Line. These ships were the Vaderland, or is it the Vaderland? I don't know. Zealand and the Lapland. But unfortunately for the Adriatic, she was eventually requisitioned by the British government on the 12th of April 1917. And at some point during this time, while docked in Pier 60, some oil barrels on a deck caught fire. Thankfully though, the firefighters on the scene got the fire under control and eventually put the fire out, making the next part of her career possible, as in the 11th of November 1918, the First World War finally came to an end. On the 3rd of September 1919, the Adriatic returned to service with the Red Star Line's Lapland, which was filling in for the Olympic, and this would last until 1921, when the Adriatic was pulled from service for a refit. And after this, she returned to the Liverpool to New York route with her sisters. But disaster would soon strike the Adriatic, as on the 10th of August 1922, the Adriatic was a victim of a gas explosion which took 5 lives and blew the hatch off her cargo hold. Then, to make matters worse, she then caught fire, but thanks to a second engineer, James Corrigan, and many other brave souls, the fire was eventually put out, and she was able to make it to New York, where temporary repairs were made, before she then left on a return voyage to have more permanent repairs done. After this was completed, she returned to service on the 19th of August, and during this time, the Adriatic and her 3 sisters made regular stops in Boston, and in her later life she began doing more cruises than usual. After returning from the Mediterranean in 1928, she had a refit which converted her into a cabin-class ship, and in this role she proved popular, but nothing good lasts forever, and that goes the same for the Adriatic. In 1929, thanks to a little thing known as the Great Depression, cruising became less profitable. So the Adriatic was laid up during the winter and was mainly used during the summer. Then, to add another nail into the coffin, the White Star Line's 2 new, more economical ships, the Britannic and Georgic, was completed. To try and combat her increasingly rising uselessness, she went on experimental low-cost cruises, which failed, resulting in the Adriatic September cruises being cancelled. Then, on the 24th of February 1934, the Adriatic made her last transatlantic crossing. Then, what would be the final nail in the coffin was, well, nailed in the coffin, as in the spring of 1934, the White Star Line and the Cunard Lines merged, resulting in the Adriatic joining the merged company's new fleet. But this didn't last long, as at this point the Adriatic was aging severely, so in September of 1934 she was immobilised and sold to Japanese shipbreakers. She then left on her longest voyage from Liverpool to Osaka, Japan, where she was broken up, ending the life and the career of this legendary liner, and the final ship of the Big Four. Hello everybody, it is I am back. Sorry about the wait on this one. This video has been an absolute pain to make. In fact, I started working on this video back when I was working on my Phoenix class video. So, yeah, I've been working on this for a while. But no, thanks to a little thing known as my phone breaking and a bunch of other things, including some of the projects I've been working on for my other channels and schoolwork and stuff. Obviously, it took me a while to make this video. But it's finally here, it's finished, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'd like to know, what's your opinion on the Big Four? Were they good ships? Did you like the class of ships? Which is your favourite? And which is your least favourite? And yeah, that's really all I've got to say. My next video should hopefully be my viewers decide the ugliest ships. And that should hopefully be coming out some point next week, or maybe the week after, if all goes to plan. But yeah, that's really all I've got to say. Thank you for watching, everyone, and thanks for being patient. Oh, and I've also got a Discord server, so check that out. But yeah, thank you for being patient, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'm glad that this video is finally done. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that I've now covered every ship of the Big Four.
So with that, I say thank you all for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.